pumpkin bread is the epitome of warmth and comfort. It incorporates the subtle sweetness of pumpkin with the fragrant notes of cinnamon, nutmeg, and cloves, and it just puts me in such a good mood. It's moist and tender, and the crumble topping provides this beautiful juxtaposition between the soft inside and the chewy, crumbly outside. This recipe is perfect with a cup of coffee, a warm cup of apple cider, but it's also perfect by itself too. One of my favorite things about this pumpkin bread is that when it's baking in the oven, it fills the entire house with like this incredible smell. It's almost like one of those autumn candles, but even better because you get to indulge in a slice of this bread when it is done. Look how tender and moist this bread is. It's exactly what you need on your table or in your bowl with like a cup of ice cream, or like I said, a cup of coffee for the season. I'm so excited to share this recipe with you guys. Don't forget you can get it at my website at brittnybreaksbread.com in my fall and holiday baking ebook. Let's get started on how you do it. Alrighty, so we're gonna start off just by making the cinnamon streusel that goes on top, which is nothing but a little bit of melted butter, some brown sugar, some flour, a little bit of cinnamon, and a pinch of salt. And what we're gonna do, the reason we're making this first is because before we assemble the pumpkin bread batter, we wanna make sure that this mixture is cold so that when we go to bake it in the oven, the crumble doesn't just melt right into the bread. We want it to be two distinct layers. The crumble layer, and then you want the actual pumpkin bread itself. So we're making this first, and then we're gonna pop this into the refrigerator while we're making the pumpkin bread. And so we're just gonna toss everything together until crumbles form. It should be nice and crumbly like this, but you wanna mix until you don't see any white flour patches. It should all kind of be like a tan beige color. So it should be just like this. And so now we're just gonna pop this in the fridge and move on to making the pumpkin bread.
I am proud to have the Luth Trading Company as a sponsor for this cookbook. The Luth is known for their high quality and innovative approach to creating clothing that is durable, comfortable, and stylish. The Luth's commitment to sustainability and minimizing their carbon footprint, as well as the amplification of everyday hardworking people through their Way Forger program, has made them my go-to brand for clothes that are cozy, functional, and sophisticated. Whether you're working on a construction site, hiking in the great outdoors, or whipping up something delicious in the kitchen like me, I proudly wear their clothing, knowing that I am supporting a company that always prioritizes quality, durability, and comfort.
Making this recipe is pretty similar to making the pumpkin cupcakes that we made previously in the series. What we're simply gonna do is mix together flour, some spices. This is actually my proprietary pumpkin spice blend. You can find it at brittnybreaksbread.com, and it is so good. It's like the pumpkin spice blend to end all pumpkin spice blends. But no worries, it's all listed in my e-cookbook, so you don't have to do any heavy lifting. We're also gonna add some leaveners and a little bit of kosher salt and whisk this together. And we're whisking everything together independently of the wet ingredients so that when everything comes together, we get a homogeneous dough that doesn't have like chunks of salt or chunks of spices in each bite. Everything is smooth. When you take a bite, you get a bit of all of the flavors that come from all of the spices. You don't have to worry about chunks of salt. It just makes it so that everything comes together really nicely. And yeah. So now that that's whisked together, we're going to begin on our wet ingredients. I've got a little bit of brown sugar and white sugar mixed together. We're also gonna add in some melted butter and some vegetable oil. And we're just gonna whisk this together for about a good 2 minutes or so. Again, until the sugars begin to break down a little bit so that they're not as gritty as they are in their natural state. You want the crystals to kind of just smooth out and blend in with the liquid that you're adding. So that's looking pretty good. I'm gonna now add in my pumpkin puree. Again, not to be confused with pumpkin pie filling. Please, please do not buy pumpkin pie filling. It'll be a drastically different recipe. It'll probably be too sweet. And then you're gonna come to me and you're gonna say, it tastes funny. And I'm like, well, did you use pumpkin pie filling? And you say yes. That's not my recipe. So we're gonna add in the pumpkin pie filling and continue to whisk together until everything's nice and incorporated. Again, you wanna whisk this for about, I would say on the safe side, 2 minutes. Just until you begin to see those sugar crystals breaking down and the pumpkin beginning to look nice and smooth. So if you want to take a quick gander of what the texture should be, almost like a really smooth applesauce. So at this point, we're gonna add in 2 eggs. Okay. And our sour cream, just for added richness and moisture, because we do not want a dense cake, or a dry cake for that matter, or bread. And we're gonna whisk that together as well. And I almost forgot, we're also gonna be using vanilla. I chose Rodell's Fair Trade Organic Pure Madagascar Bourbon Vanilla Extract, as this is a one-of-a-kind product that's on the market and features vanilla beans sourced directly through a farmer partnership in Madagascar. They work directly with vanilla farmers to improve their livelihoods while also growing the best vanilla beans possible. From fair trade to organic to gourmet extracts, Rodell has you covered. Okay, so now we've got all of our wet ingredients incorporated. They've all been whisked together. Everything's getting to know each other perfectly. We're going to add in our dry ingredients, and we're just gonna fold it together until a nice smooth batter forms. It may be just slightly clumpy. It shouldn't have large clumps, but just a slight clump is okay. So long as that batter doesn't have any dry patches of flour, that's what we're kind of looking for in this kind of a batter. Again, we don't want to overmix. We want moist pumpkin bread that it just melts in your mouth, has a velvety texture, and it's just a delight to eat. So I'm gonna go in with my whisk just very quickly, just to sift out any lumps. There we go. And this is what we're looking for. Now, I didn't do this in the video, but a quick way to kind of make sure that your batter isn't lumpy is to sift your dry ingredients together. You don't have to do it, but it is helpful. It's a good way to make sure that the batter isn't lumpy and that it gets nice and smooth. But we still achieve that with this batter. As you can see, with the help of the whisk, everything's kind of dancing together really nicely. It's nice and smooth. And I'm gonna stop mixing here because I don't want the batter to get too tough, or the cake to be tough, the bread to be tough. Jeez. All right, so this is what it should look like. All right, so we've got a 9x5 loaf pan that we're going to be pouring our batter into. With this recipe, I do recommend using parchment paper as opposed to non-stick baking spray, because as the cake rises in the oven, with the streusel on top, you don't want things to fall over onto the oven and kind of burn on the bottom of the oven and get kind of smoky. So this is kind of like my quick little go-to trick whenever I make this recipe, so that when the cake rises, you get to keep all your streusel in and you get to maintain all those really good crumbles. So we're just going to pour our pumpkin bread batter into the loaf pan. I'm gonna smooth it out. And now we've got our chilled cinnamon streusel that we're just going to sprinkle on top. And don't be afraid, this is a lot of streusel, but we did not come to play when it comes to this recipe. So we are taking all that streusel, putting it on top, and now it is time to bake. This is what all your hard work looks like. And now it's time to put it in the oven so you can reap what you sowed. And there you have it. I told you guys this was going to be a super easy recipe for the ultimate pumpkin bread. Again, tender, moist, crumbly top, soft texture, literally melt in your mouth. It is so good. You get all those perfectly balanced spices with the sweetness of the pumpkin. It's everything you need for fall. So without further ado, you can get this recipe again at BrittanyBreaksBread.com. Head to the ebook section of my website, purchase it, make this recipe, and let me know what you think. Happy baking.